Those bindings are forged from compressed duralite. No species in the coalition has ever broken them. I'm not in the coalition. I'm just having a bad week. Caleb Reyes had been having, by any reasonable measure, an exceptionally bad week. It had started with a supply run gone wrong near the outer trade lanes, continued through an unscheduled detour into Sranny territorial space that his ship's navigation system had apparently considered a good idea without consulting him, and arrived at its current low point in a Sranny military shipyard hangar with his hands cuffed behind his back and a small crowd of armored soldiers deciding what to do with him. He had not panicked. Caleb did not generally panic. It was not a personality trait he had cultivated so much as a fact about himself. He had discovered it slowly across a decade of supply hauling through some of the less hospitable corners of charted space. Panic cost time, and time was usually the only resource worth having. What he had instead, standing in the Sranny hangar with armed soldiers on three sides, was a quiet and growing irritation. The Sranny were not, by coalition standards, an unreasonable species. They were a militarized culture, proud and rigidly hierarchical, but not cruel for its own sake. Caleb understood, in the abstract, why a freighter pilot stumbling uninvited into their shipyard might be detained for questioning. He understood it less when the questioning involved being cuffed, marched across an open hangar floor, and left standing for 40 minutes while officers argued about jurisdiction in a language his translator only partially processed. Commander Lrath had arrived sometime during the 35th minute of that argument, and the arguing had stopped almost immediately. She was, by the visible reaction of every soldier around her, someone whose authority was not questioned twice. Tall, pale-skinned, with platinum blonde hair braided into an elaborate pattern that Caleb suspected indicated rank, she wore battle armor with the comfortable familiarity of someone who had worn far worse in far worse places. Her eyes were a striking gray blue, and they settled on Caleb with the specific, assessing focus of someone deciding whether a problem was dangerous or merely inconvenient. "You crossed into restricted territory," she said, her translator software rendering her words with only a slight delay. "Explain yourself." "Navigation malfunction," Caleb said. "I'd love to explain it better, but that's genuinely all that happened. I was hauling agricultural equipment to the Vashani outer colonies and ended up here instead. I'm aware that sounds unlikely. I promise you it's true." She studied him for a long moment. "Your ship's logs will confirm or deny that claim." "They will," Caleb agreed. "I'd appreciate you checking sooner rather than later. The cuffs are uncomfortable, and I have a delivery deadline that's getting less realistic by the minute." Something almost like amusement crossed her face before she suppressed it. "You are very calm for a man in your position." "I've been in worse positions," Caleb said. "Statistically, anyway. This is just inconvenient." The amusement disappeared entirely. "That is an unwise thing to say to a Sranny officer." "Probably," Caleb agreed. "I've been told I have poor judgment about when to be quiet." Lrath turned to confer with one of her officers, and it was during this conversation, Caleb would think about the timing of it later, that a particular accident of boredom and frustration produced the moment. He shifted his weight, felt the cuffs bite uncomfortably into his wrists for the 100th time, and without any specific plan in mind, simply pulled. He did not expect anything to happen. He had pulled against restraints before in worse circumstances, and restraints generally won. These didn't. The duralite cuffs shattered outward with a sound like breaking glass, fragments scattering across the hangar floor, a faint blue static charge crackling and dissipating from the broken metal links. Caleb stood there for a moment, looking at his own free hands with an expression of mild surprise, as though they had done something without consulting him. The hangar went silent. Lrath turned back from her conversation to find the human prisoner standing with his hands unbound, broken restraints scattered at his feet, looking faintly apologetic about it. "That is not possible," she said. "I agree," Caleb said. "I'd like that on record. I didn't do anything unusual. I just pulled." Duralite restraints have a tensile rating 4 times beyond what any known biological species can generate unassisted. Raftha's voice had lost its flat command authority entirely, replaced by something that sounded, for the first time since Caleb had met her, genuinely uncertain. "No one breaks them. Not Sranny, not Korathi. No one." I'd like to point out, Caleb said carefully, raising his open hands in a gesture of harmlessness that fooled absolutely no one given the circumstances, that I'm not trying to escape. I'm standing right here. I just wanted to be more comfortable. The soldiers around them had gone very still, weapons raised but uncertain, watching their commander for a cue she did not immediately provide. Wrath closed the distance between them instead. Her hand rose halfway toward his wrist, not quite touching, frozen in the specific hesitation of someone confronting a fact that did not fit anywhere in her understanding of the universe. "What are you?" she asked very quietly. "A supply pilot with a navigation problem and apparently above-average grip strength," Caleb said. "I genuinely don't have a better answer than that." It took 6 hours, a full medical scan, 3 increased